This, of course, is where getting support, using outside resources like a company like ours or a coach or somebody to help you really think through who is the right fit. So you're not reacting, you're really proactively trying to find the right person rather than just, like you said, the first person who says all the right things is clearly the right person to hire. And that's often not the case. That almost always backfires.
You're listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with your host, Michael Palmer. Listen each week as inspiring guests share their secrets of success to help you increase your confidence, work smarter, and build a business you love. This episode of The Successful Bookkeeper is brought to you by PureBookkeeping.com, the proven system to grow your bookkeeping business.
Welcome back to the Successful Bookkeeper Podcast. I am your host, Michael Palmer, and today's show is going to be a good one. Our guest is the owner of a recruiting business called Zephyr Recruiting that serves the small business community. Erin Longmoon, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
It's great to have you. And, I think in these times that we are going through, it is never a bad time to talk about how to attract and retain team members and staff, but certainly in a time like now with everything that's happening with COVID-19, taking care of your staff, making sure you have the right people in place, even though you may not be hiring at this particular time or thinking about it. I'm sure some people are. So Erin, it's great to have you on the show. And please tell us a little bit about you and your career journey leading up to this point.
Yeah, well, that's a long story, so I'll try to be short. But so I'm Erin Longmoon. As you said, I own Zephyr Recruiting. I am somewhat of a serial entrepreneur. I was born to be an entrepreneur. And so I have owned a number of kind of my own version of small businesses throughout my life. I was able to put myself through college by owning a house cleaning company. Certain economic downturns where there weren't a lot of job options, I would just kind of create work for myself. And then in 2017, just that journey of entrepreneurship just really lit a fire under me that I wanted to create something more than just a job for myself. I discovered sort of my mission and my passion and wanted to turn that into a bona fide company that I could then kind of live that mission out through that company. And that's when I started Zephyr Recruiting in 2017.
Wow. Great. Well, an interesting journey and likely the experience is very valuable to the customers that you serve with those experiences.
Absolutely. Definitely. And I've been an employee as well, which also has served us well in Zephyr and our specific model, which is very unique in the recruiting world. We're very, very different. We're kind of disruptors. We call ourselves the anti-recruiters internally. And a lot of that is because of my journey through being an employee as well as an employer. And our mission is to eradicate toxic workplaces. And we believe that everyone deserves to enjoy, get joy and enjoy their work because it's such an enormous part of our lives.
So much life goes a lot easier when you enjoy what you do. I mean, when we think about how much time is spent at work and the people that we spend the time with when we're at work, whether you're the owner of the company or you're an employee in the company, it's a lot of time. And the time with those people often is more than with your own family. Exactly.
And then, of course, the ripple effect is huge. If you're joyful at work, you really enjoy going, you enjoy the people you're working with, then you come home happy and your family is happy. And then what you exude out into the world when you go out, with friends and doing the things that we hopefully will be able to start doing again soon, it has a beautiful ripple effect. And obviously the opposite holds true if you're really unhappy at work or, stressed at work, or it's not a place you enjoy going, both employee or employer, that has a negative ripple effect. So we are all about trying to shift that and creating more positive ripple effects with the kind of work we do.
That's great. That's great. Well, it
Yeah.
all comes back to, every little bit counts in creating environments in our community that are positive and lead to better outcomes, whether it's helping people in their business to grow their business or helping staff and employees work well in a business. Those small businesses make up a huge part of our community. So we love that conversation, and our listeners are bookkeepers, bookkeeping business owners.
Yep.
Many of them have staff. Many of them are looking to hire staff in their business down the track. And so I love to help them understand how they can optimize their own environments and maybe take it in that direction. I mean, we did have a little bit of a chat prior to this conversation and talked about, there is an economic crisis happening right now when this is being recorded. Obviously, if you're listening to this in the fall of 2020 or somewhere out in the future, everything's fine, right? In the future, we're doing great. But if you're listening to this episode now, likely things are a little bit upside down. So what are you seeing with businesses that are hiring or what should our owners be looking at right now?
That's an excellent question. We're seeing all sorts of things, of course, and it is a very challenging time, unprecedented. A lot of people really don't know exactly what we should be doing, right? What we should be focusing on. And, so we are seeing things like, some organizations, some companies, some of our clients are putting hiring on hold, and it makes sense for them. We have other companies that, are actually on the other side, and they're actually experiencing some level of growth. So they are trying to hire, but in this very interesting kind of virtual world, which is not new to us. We've been a virtual company since our inception, and we've been doing virtual interviewing, and we're set up for that ever since day one. So it's not new to us, but it is new to our clients, some of our clients. And so we're seeing them trying to navigate how do you interview, how do you onboard, how do you even train new employees that you need now in a virtual setting. So there's a lot of layers, and it just depends on what your business is experiencing during this crisis as to what, kind of what challenges you're facing. So it can be all sorts of things. And for those clients, what I'd love to talk about today with you is the clients of ours who have needed to put hiring on hold, and for a variety of reasons, they don't want to just stop all efforts. They don't want to just put hiring on hold, we're done, and then just hope someday when this crisis is over, they'll just pick up where they left off. And we agree with them that there is something that they should be doing to help position themselves for that future. That future is going to happen. Unfortunately, we don't know when exactly, but it is going to happen. And so what can you be doing now to help position you when that happens to be able to be a strong, I guess I'm going to say player, but to position yourself with strength in your community, with the businesses that you're competing against for employees and that kind of thing, so that you can attract the best employees, the ones that you really want.
Interesting.
So that's sort of what we're discussing with a lot of our clients, and that's what we're seeing is a slight shift.
Okay. So, and how do people start to even think about that?
So what we call it here at Zephyr is employment brand marketing. And it is what we're recommending is that people focus on this part of a marketing strategy. And it's kind of new to small business owners, possibly to a lot of your listeners, where what you're doing is you're focusing your marketing instead of trying to, attract your ideal client. What you want to do is try to attract your ideal employee. So you think of it similarly. You want to develop a message that will attract that ideal employee to your business and then start putting it out into the world. You're trying to position yourself as an employer of choice is what we call that too. So we've got some terminology here I'll throw out there. But so we call it employer of choice. You want to position yourself as an employer of choice so that no matter what happens at the end of this, whether we have high unemployment, low unemployment, or even it stabilizes somewhere in between, you still want to be able to attract the kind of employees that you want. We call those right fit employees. So they're the right fit for your company, your values, your team, your goals. That person is a different employee than, the right fit for another bookkeeping company that's, the town over. Their goals and values and culture and their team is different. So you want to attract your right fit employee to your company. And you do that through marketing.
Interesting. And what have you seen, and when others have done this, what are some of the things that have happened, outcomes, I guess, for their business?
Yeah, it's really powerful, actually. Everything from, of course, we have to talk a little bit about the previous climate to this, because this is unprecedented times and we don't know exactly what this is going to look like after. But for example, in the very tight unemployment market that we had prior to this COVID crisis, the clients of ours that actually spent time and resources and did this employment brand marketing, they stood out to the point where when it came time to hire, they would put a post out. We would put a post up for them. And then we would get candidates coming to us that would say, I have been waiting for them to hire. I can't wait. I've been watching them. I've heard about them. They have such a great reputation. I really want to work with them. And those candidates really stand out. Like, they will write beautiful cover letters and they will really try to convince us that they're the right fit, as opposed to the other way around, because they're so excited about this particular company. It also, in the times when they're not hiring, they will see an uptick of people coming to them, calling, sending in their resume, saying, whenever you're ready to hire, I would be very interested in working for your organization. I resonate with your values and those kinds of things. And in a high unemployment market, it's going to be very challenging to break through the noise of a flood of candidates. And so this is going to help with that too. The ones that stand out will be the ones that have been watching you, and they're going to say so when they apply. They're going to really stand out because they're going to kind of reflect back what they've been seeing out on your social media channels and the various ways that you market yourself. And then, of course, the end result is just a really effective team that, works well, like I said, resonates with your values and all the things that brings by having an effective team.
Excellent.
Your organization, right?
Yes, absolutely. And so what are some actual things that they could be putting into place? Like, if someone was listening now and wanted to start taking this forward in their business, what would be the first step that they would take to do that?
So we've actually developed a checklist, and I will make that available to your listeners on our website. Yeah, checklists are awesome, right? Especially for us taskmaster type people, we love checklists. So we've broken it down into 3 phases. And the first phase is to develop your right fit. It's to develop that profile of who your right fit employee is. You need to know who they are first. So it goes all the way back to, knowing your core values, identifying what your culture of your company is. What, if you have a current team, what are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? What are common traits that they have? There's a whole process you go through to identify all of these things. And the end result is what we call the right fit employee profile. And you have to know, it's just like your ideal client, you have to know who that person is and what matters to them in order to create the right messaging that will attract them and speak to them. So that's number 1. And then the second step is developing a strategy, which is a lot like a marketing plan. So you're going to consider things like, where do they hang out online? Which social media channels do they frequent? What kind of language are they using? What kinds of things are important to them that you want to highlight about you as an employer? Are you a fun place to work? Or do you offer a consistent, like, personal growth or professional growth opportunities? Is that something you do as a part of your company? Do you do outings and community volunteering? What does your company offer them that is unique and different, but that will be very important to them? So you need to identify all those kinds of things and put all that together into basically a marketing plan. It's an employee brand marketing plan. And there is quite a bit of steps that it takes to get to that point, just like there is in a marketing plan. You need to do some research. There are some development things you have to do. You want to survey or talk to your existing team. There's a number of steps. And at the end of that, you'll have this plan. And then, of course, the last phase is implementing this plan, which is oftentimes where people fall off, right? Like, they create a great plan and then they let it sit on their desk or on a shelf somewhere. So obviously, implementing this is really the only way to make it start working for you.
Love it. It's pretty cool that when you think about it, the steps that you've already mentioned and the fact that you have this checklist and we'll provide the checklist access where you can find that on your website in the show notes. When you talk about these things with your current customers and clients that you deal with, what type of challenges do you see them faced with when they try and implement a checklist like this?
I think really it's a lot of things, especially for small business owners. We're basically very overworked, right? We're wearing so many different hats in our businesses as business owners. And so really it has to do with time. I think that they can develop really great plans and strategy around this, but who's going to implement this? Is it the owner themselves? Do they have someone on their team that they can use as a resource and give them some of these tasks to, be responsible for? So you have to take a moment in that implementation section or that phase and really decide who's going to do what and plan it out, put it on the calendar, make it real actionable steps. And then, but the biggest challenge we're finding with our clients is just the time. They don't really have a lot of time to do it, unfortunately. But the payoffs are huge. And the clients of ours that do it and actually do spend some of their time on it really reap incredible benefits. They have strong, effective teams. They have long engagement with their employees. They are the kinds of employers that can take longer vacations. We have one client who actually is an accounting firm. It's not bookkeeping, but they do accounting. And, by doing this and attracting the right employees and using our services to help them find key people, the owner was able to take a 4-week vacation during tax season, during the month of April.
Wow.
And so, those kinds of things are really, right? It's huge. That's really a big deal. And he had a passion project of wanting to write a book for his clients, a business book for his clients. And he did that. And so now he's a published author. And, so he used that, that's what he used that time for. But, go travel the world if that's what you want to do. But it can be incredibly powerful. The payoffs are really big. So we really try to encourage our owners to do it themselves or to get help doing it.
Got it. And I would say, that's the case in many situations. And often the beginning is research, understanding what you're trying to accomplish. That's why I think checklists such as yours are really helpful, is that it can help people maybe do it themselves and get it done correctly. But then, there's people like yourself that are experts in this and can get it done with a level of peace of mind and getting it done the right way the first time.
The right way, right. Yes. And yes, obviously there is that too. It is our expertise. It's a part of our expertise is employment brand marketing along with recruiting. So we do this hands-on for a lot of our clients. We do all the way from the strategy, the beginning stages, all the way through implementation for those who want that added service. And that does obviously ensure the consistency. Not just of the posts getting out on a regular basis, but the messaging is consistent. We help them pivot in, like, for example, crises like this. What do you do now? We had a full marketing strategy in place for this time of year for some of our clients, and we've had to pivot very quickly. And of course, we are able to help them do that. So it does, it's like anything. Sometimes just because we can doesn't mean we should, and as a business owner, we always have to constantly evaluate that, I think, is, I may have I may get it, I may understand it, but is it really where I should be spending my time? What's the best use of my time and my strengths, or my team's time and their strengths? And so sometimes outsourcing things like this, it really is a good business decision. But we've created tools for those who, that isn't the right decision. So the checklist, we actually are doing a webinar. It's going to be airing on May 7th. I think this is coming out after, but we will likely be doing it again. So if they sign up for the checklist, they will certainly be getting any notifications of our webinar that we do that helps walk people through this a little bit more detailed. And we've got some videos that help support these. So for people who really do want to do it themselves, we've got some extra tools for them to help them through this process.
Very good. You mentioned finding an ideal employee, which I think is, if we think about this building a business and having freedom as an owner, putting the right people into your organization is the key to that magic even being a possibility. Do you see mistakes people make in even trying to identify what their ideal employee would look like?
I do. I think that the common poll or the common advice is to look for, and I'm going to use kind of air quotes, but, top talent or A players, people who have shining resumes, people who maybe came from the top schools, things like that. And I understand where that came from, but the truth is, from our perspective, we actually see those kinds of things resulting in those toxic workplaces we mentioned very early in the call, because the fit isn't right. And that's why we came up with the idea of a right fit employee, not just the best employee or even your ideal employee. We like the right fit because, who the right fit is for your company will be different than the right fit for another. So I think it's really important where people fall short is looking at all the different pieces that go into who really is the right fit employee for your business and trying to make it more about your own personal business than just thinking you need, the person who came from the best school, and for your business, that might be a requirement for a reason, but it should have a reason. It shouldn't just be because. It should be, maybe it has to do with the kinds of clients you are serving, the businesses you are serving, but there should be a reason why that's an important component of who your ideal right fit employee is. And if it's not important, then don't have it be one of the components, and we see that a lot of employers are just sort of automatically trying to find the best, and they don't really even know why, to be honest.
I agree. And I think it's tough sometimes even getting that down on paper, because if you've never hired someone, that's one challenge. It's like you don't even know.
Right.
That's why wisdom is, what is it called? The school of hard knocks. Don't want to go through that school because it's a very difficult school to go through. So, leaning on people that have already had those hard knocks and figured that out, because the cost to hiring incorrectly is so high, and often it's an elusive one. I find in this community and throughout the size of the businesses that our listeners have, it's often they're hiring at the wrong time, which is they've waited too long to hire. So they can have happy ears and happy eyes, which means they're, everything they hear, it's like, yes, you're going to help me get out of this overwhelm that I'm now in and need to solve. And so, without doing this thinking early can be challenging.
Yes. And, the truth is that that's pretty normal in the business cycle, and I understand that. Both I'm a business owner and I have been, and I'm an employer, and I understand, I get it. There's other things that have to be sort of dealt with at different phases of your business, and, trying to just get into sales, and then you've got to develop your systems, and there are other fires, right? And then, like you said, all of a sudden you find yourself in overwhelm and you're like, I have to hire right now. And it makes sense that there wasn't necessarily the space prior to that to be able to think about this proactively. So if you're a listener here who's, really young in your business, it is a good idea, reap this wisdom and start having that be something you start thinking about and learning about and reading about. But if you're kind of past that point and it's a little too late, this, of course, is where getting support, using outside resources like a company like ours or a coach or somebody to help you really think through who is the right fit. So you're not reacting, you're really proactively trying to find the right person rather than just, like you said, the first person who says all the right things is clearly the right person to hire. And that's often not the case. That almost always backfires. So
that's right.
Get help. I mean, I don't want anybody to feel badly that they maybe didn't think about this before they needed to. I think that's a pretty normal part of being a business owner.
It's definitely normal. Yeah, definitely normal.
It is. Yeah.
And, there's all sorts of areas of the business we could talk about where we're not proactive. We should be.
Of course.
So we don't want to shoot on everybody out there, but let's shoot on them.
Right.
Right.
Right. That's great. Yep.
Yeah. It is an area that, having good sounding board, and what I found just in the conversations is, think of people buy homes, right? People buy homes like they're buying a pair of jeans sometimes, right? And it's like, this is a long decision. It's a massive decision, but yet it's designed for us to go on our emotions and get caught up in the emotions of it. And if you have a good sounding board, a trusted source, trusted advisor that can help you navigate that, it's to say, wait, it's like waiting a day, waiting a week, waiting a month is sometimes worth it to get the right fit than to move too quickly and get the wrong fit, because you're going to be right back at square one with a whole bunch of baggage and problems and costs and damages potentially to the business. So having someone there through that process to say, hey, maybe not the right time. Let's wait. Let's see, to be the ear or the voice of calm.
Yes. And I think too, just in that analogy, the person who's outside of you or your business, right, can see sometimes things more clearly. Someone just gave me the greatest analogy. You can't see the label when you're inside the jar. Mm-hmm. And so by having someone outside the jar, basically looking at, who's going to be the right fit for your organization, helping you figure out who that is. And then as the candidates come in, as the people come in, who you're evaluating, to evaluate them for you in an objective manner first, which is, what we do is we've got, we look at them from that objective manner against what does this client really need? What does this, who is going to be truly the right fit for them and their team? And because we're not inside the jar, we can see them very clearly. And then, presenting our clients with those finalists that really do fit. And then it's a matter of them deciding who do I connect with the most, or, at the end of the day, it's really just picking their favorite in some ways because we've honed in so well. But we can do it because we're objective, and it's very hard to be objective when you're the owner or, you're the hiring manager inside the business.
Absolutely.
It's much more emotional, like you said.
Absolutely. Being objective is worth its weight in gold, and difficult to have that. Well, you just don't have that perspective because you're not wearing those glasses.
Right.
So,
exactly.
and again, it comes in many different areas of the business, but this one's a really, really important one, in my opinion. And
thank you.
And so,
I as well. I'm biased, of course.
Well, you take care of these things, foundational things, right? Take care of these foundational things. The business can have a life of its own that is a good life, and can have like exponential growth and success if you put these pieces, the right pieces, in place. So hiring is one of those things, and if you get the right team on, boom, things can be really good in the future. Now, I would like to take an angle change here and talk a little bit about because there may be people listening that have had to lay off, or furlough is the key buzzword, I guess, right now. I don't know where they dig these words up, right, with the media. It's like a nice word, I guess, furlough, but...
Yeah, I think furlough supposedly implies that they are definitely coming back, and it was a government term. I mean, I remember back in the 80s, the government would furlough, their employees. So I don't know where it came from either, but I think that
definitely you don't hear it very often, but it's happening so much, and
it's
so
happening a lot. Yeah,
the thoughts that I have as I watch these things happen is it's significant. It's happening. People are dealing with this. And there's the emotions and challenge of even being in a position where you'll have to do it. But then as well, a furlough implies that people will come back and we need to rehire. And so there's like challenges potentially with the way people feel about being furloughed. And then you're bringing people back into your business that may have had to go through hardship because of it. So it's this challenging time where we as business owners have to make these decisions for the health of the business, but it doesn't necessarily, it's like there's some sacrifice. So how do you maintain relationships? And I mean, it's a pretty packed question here, so we can take a little bit of it and see if we can provide some help and guidance for our listeners.
Well, and I will come right out. We've had to furlough some of our team as well. I think as a lot of small businesses, like you said, are having to do. And it is a very challenging decision. It can be very painful. I mean, I definitely shed tears and was like fighting the idea for at least a couple of days before it just became obvious. And, I think a couple of things from my personal experience, when I needed to call each person who I needed to lay off or furlough, because I've invested in some of these things we've talked about. I've found the right fit team. I have spent time trying to create a great place to work. I have really invested, my time and resources into that. My team brought me to tears with how supportive and they were. And, some of them are even volunteering their time and continuing to work without pay. Just only a couple, because I don't want everybody doing that, but to allow us to be able to bring our clients some much needed support right now. They see the value in that and they're doing that. And I think that, not to toot our own horn, but I'm just saying that's the kinds of things that by doing things like employment brand marketing, knowing who your right fit employee is, all of these things we're talking about, hiring correctly, can allow you to develop a team where the negative effects are mitigated, I guess. And then I'm spending a lot of my time staying connected. I'm calling every one of them every week. I am emailing them a couple of times a week. We are having more social type of Zoom meetings where we had lunch the other day together just to connect, because I want to make sure that the connection that we had as a team prior to this does not just start to dissipate or disappear altogether. We need to stay engaged, and even if they are 100% laid off and they're not volunteering their time and they're just, they're not working at all, I think it's really important for these owners to consider they're still your team, they're still your team. So do what makes sense for you and for them, but do something, to maintain that connection. And I think that will go a long way when this crisis is over and you call people back. They're going to be excited to come back. They're going to be ready to come back. And, it won't be some awkward integration back into work. It'll be, everybody will kind of come back as a unified front and going, okay, now what are we facing and how do we do this together?
Remarkable.
I don't know if that answered your question.
It does. I think it's,
okay.
I really do think it did. And I mean, it's, I think, a refreshing take on where people are at and your own personal situation where you've had to go through this, unlocks this for others that might be in this situation, right? Is that there is, you're not alone. Our listeners not alone. There's others, many business owners out there, and if people need support, obviously it's better to do things with others, or helpful to do things with others. So connecting with people, hearing these kinds of messages can help guide people through it. And it's just sometimes what has to be done. And the best we can do is go through those things with advice and knowledge of those that are doing it and have done it, like yourself. And so, that's what resonates for me. And just listening here myself, it's hiring, whether we're going through difficult times or good times or whatever, is challenging. And it is a skill set that every business owner must be aware of and constantly improving on, because that's the game of business, right? Is being able to put the pieces together and make the thing go and go well. And so, I really want to thank you for coming on the show and sharing part of that real key element of business, one of the pillars of having a great team. And so, yes, challenging times right now, but this is the time to stay focused and to do the things that you can do, that you can control, and also muscle up for when there's going to be days where you'll need to take these actions.
Exactly. Yes. And you're welcome. And thank you so much for providing this platform for this conversation, especially in these kinds of times, but even in great times, it's, I think, the kinds of things, podcasts and the kind of conversations you're having are obviously incredibly supportive and helpful. And it can be as we all know, it can be a lonely world being an entrepreneur, and, having resources like this and groups and things just really help us feel a lot less alone and help balance out our strengths and our weaknesses with others. And So thank you for allowing me to be here.
It is our pleasure, and thank you. And of course, you've mentioned lots of resources. We're going to put all of those resources and links into the show notes. That'll be on the podcast site or right here on your phone, listener, if you want to just scroll down and click away and check out what Erin and her team have developed and the resources that are available to you to help you navigate through this.
Yes, please do. And of course, reach out to us if you have any questions at all. I love talking to people, so feel free to reach out just for a conversation.
Beautiful. And that comes across in our wonderful conversation today. Erin, thank you again so much for being on the podcast.
Yes, thank you. Be safe. Stay healthy.
Thank you. And with that, we wrap another episode of the Successful Bookkeeper Podcast. To learn more about today's guest and to get access to all sorts of valuable free business building resources, you can go to thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Until next time, goodbye.
You've been listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with Michael Palmer. For more information and to download the resources mentioned in this episode, please visit us at thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Thank you for listening.